There is a particular kind of pain that doesn't come from what is happening now, but from what is no longer happening, from what you already lived, regretted, tried to repair, and thought was buried. You're in the middle of a discussion, maybe about something small in the present. A difference of opinion, a boundary you set, a simple no that you finally had the courage to say, and then they drop it on the table like a knife. Funny you're talking about respect after what you did back then. Instantly, the air changes. The conversation is no longer about the present. It's about your record. That one mistake, that phase of your life. That version of you that you've been working for years to outgrow. They say it in a way that doesn't invite dialogue, it invites collapse. The goal is not clarity. The goal is advantage. They want you small again, guilty again, afraid to stand up for yourself because, with your past, who do you think you are to speak? You know that feeling. Your throat tightens. Your stomach line drops. Your mind rushes to defend or explain. I already apologize for that. You know I changed. How long are you going to throw this in my face? The more you try to justify yourself, the deeper you sink. The original topic disappears. Now you are on trial again, replaying episodes you've gone through 100 times in your head. You feel trapped because you can't change what already happened, and yet they talk as if you could pay off that debt if you just suffer a little more in this moment. From a Stoic perspective, what is happening here is not just a relationship problem, it is a problem of power. The person who uses your past against you has discovered a lever, your shame. As long as they can keep that lever in their hand, they know they can pull it anytime you try to assert yourself, say no, disagree, or step into a new version of you. They don't even have to be fully conscious of it. Sometimes it's calculated, sometimes it's instinctive. But the effect is the same. Your past is no longer a chapter in your story. It is a chain around your neck. The Stoics never pretended that the past didn't matter. They knew that actions have consequences, that character is built over time, that harm done to others is serious. But they also refused to give the past a power that belongs only to the present, the power to decide who you are now. For the Stoic, the only place where you actually live is this moment. Here, where you can choose your thoughts, your words, your posture. The past is information, not a sentence. It is something to learn from, not something to be endlessly whipped with. When someone uses your past against you, they are often trying to freeze you in an old version of yourself so they don't have to face who you are becoming. If you grew, if you changed, if you started setting boundaries, their old control over you becomes weaker. So they reach for the oldest weapon. Remember when you messed up. That's the real you. The Stoic answer to this is not to deny the past, but to reclaim it. Yes, you did what you did. Yes, it had consequences. Yes, maybe you would give anything to go back and make different choices. But you can't. What you can do, and what they don't want you to remember, is decide how much of today you're going to hand over to something that no longer exists. There are two ways people use your past against you. One comes from hurt, the other from convenience. In the first, the person was genuinely wounded by what you did. They still carry scars. When they bring it up, it comes from a place of unresolved pain. Even then, it can become unfair if they turn your old mistake into a permanent identity. But there is at least an understandable wound there, and sometimes what's needed is a deeper, honest conversation, maybe even outside of the heat of the argument. The second way is colder. The person wasn't necessarily destroyed by what you did, but they realized your guilt is a button they can press to win. Whenever they're cornered, they hit that button. Whenever you say, "This is not okay with me," they answer you, "Of all people, can't talk." That is not healing. That is manipulation. Stoicism won't tell you to ignore the first kind. It will tell you to accept responsibility without letting it erase your present dignity. You can say, "I know I hurt you. I don't deny it. I regret it, and I've tried to be different since then. But Stoicism will be merciless with the second kind, the convenient weaponization. It will tell you it is not just to let someone use your remorse as a leash. There is a difference between being accountable and being eternally blackmailed. The first step in regaining control, then, is internal. Before you can handle the person in front of you, you have to handle the judge inside you. Because the truth is, their words only cut this deep. Because a part of you already believes that you should never speak again, never set a boundary again, never ask for respect again, because of what you did back then. Their sentence finds a courtroom already prepared in your own mind. That is where Stoic work begins, with your relationship to your own history. The Stoics were ruthless about examining their day, their choices, their failures. Marcus Aurelius would revisit his own behavior at night and ask where he had acted against his nature. But he didn't do this to wallow. He did it to correct course, to wake up the next day and try again. Imagine if he had decided that one bad day made him permanently unworthy of ever trying to be better. That would not be humility, it would be an excuse to stay small. In the same way, retaking control when someone uses your past against you is not about declaring yourself perfect. It's about refusing to be locked in a version of you that no longer matches your present effort. You are allowed to say, yes, that was me. It is not the whole of me. And it is not the only thing that defines how I am acting now. You are allowed to be firm in the present without first reciting every sin you've ever committed as if asking for permission to speak. This doesn't mean the other person has to trust you, love you, or stay with you. They are free to choose distance, caution, even separation if what happened was serious enough. Stoicism never forces reconciliation, but they are not entitled to own your identity forever. They can decide their boundaries. They cannot decide who you are allowed to become. Only you, in each current moment, decide how you're going to think, speak, and act. So the question becomes, when your past is thrown on the table like a weapon, what do you do with that moment? Do you immediately collapse into old guilt and let the conversation be hijacked? Do you scream that they're unfair and enter a shouting contest about who hurt who more? Or do you do something different, something stoic, and separate three things: what you did, what you have become since, and what is actually being discussed now? In the next part, we'll go deeper into this separation. We'll look at how, in practice, you can respond when someone says, after everything you've done, or you have no right to talk, and how to stand in your current character without denying your past, yet also without offering yourself up to endless punishment every time you dare to grow. When someone throws your past in your face, the real damage is rarely in the facts themselves. You already know what you did. You've replayed it 100 times alone, in the dark, when nobody was there to judge you but yourself. The real damage happens in the fusion. Because I did that, I am forever this. That is the lie that turns your history into a prison. And that is exactly where a Stoic has to begin cutting the chain, not by pretending nothing happened, but by refusing to let any single chapter become the entire book. The first separation you need to make is between the event and your identity. The event is what happened. You lied, you cheated, you exploded, you abandoned, you betrayed your own values in a moment of fear, ego, immaturity, or pain. That is real. Stoicism does not erase it with spiritual perfume. The identity is the story you build around that event. I am permanently broken. I am unworthy of respect forever. I have no right to speak about boundaries or morals ever again. That story is not fact, it is a judgment. And judgments can be examined, questioned, revised. A Stoic approach is brutally honest, but not suicidal. It says, yes, I failed there. Yes, that version of me existed. But it also asks, am I going to let that version command my entire future? If you answer yes, you've already surrendered before any other person attacks you. All they have to do is say, remember when. and your own mind will complete the job of tearing you down. Retaking control means that before you face their accusations, you face your own. You look at your history and decide, I will let this teach me, not define me. The second separation is between their pain and their power. If you truly hurt someone, they have the right to feel grief, anger, mistrust. They have the right to choose distance. They have the right to say, I don't feel safe with you in my life anymore. That is their sphere of control. What they do not have the right to do is use your remorse as a weapon to silence any attempt you make to live better now. There is a difference between, I'm still hurt by what happened, and, because of what happened, you must accept any treatment I give you forever. A Stoic response does not chase forgiveness like oxygen. It respects that the other person may never fully trust again. But it also respects that your life cannot be built on the condition that they are constantly satisfied with you. You can say, I understand that what I did still affects you, and I accept that. But I'm not going to let this be used to invalidate everything I do from now on. That's not cruelty, that's refusing perpetual moral blackmail. The third separation is between the past mistake and the current discussion. When someone says, after everything you've done, you have no right to complain, they're trying to collapse all three into one: your old action, your present self, and the current issue. Stoic clarity refuses that shortcut. It sounds like this inside. Why? Why? Yes, I hurt this person back then. Yes, I'm working to be different now. Yes, this current behavior or situation is still not okay, regardless of my past. On the outside, it may sound like a calm, simple sentence. What I did back then was wrong, and I don't deny that. But what we're talking about now is this specific situation. Both can be true. Notice how different that is from collapsing into, you're right, I'm trash, I can't say anything. You are not deleting your guilt. You are refusing to let it be the only reality in the room. Let's look at a common attack. Now you want respect. After everything you did. The old, you might hurry to defend yourself. But that was years ago. I've changed. I said I was sorry. You keep bringing it up. Every sentence deepens the emotional quicksand. A Stoic trained version of you breathes and answers differently. Yes, I did things back then that I regret deeply. And you're right, that hurt us. I'm not denying that. But even people with a past are allowed to ask for respect in the present. What happened then doesn't justify everything that happens now. You are not begging. You are not rewriting history. You are simply re-establishing that you, like every human, are allowed both a past and a present. Or they say, you of all people have no right to draw boundaries. The intention is clear: shut you down by reminding you of your worst moment. Here, a Stoic answer can be short and almost paradoxical. It's because I know how much damage I can cause when I have no boundaries that I take them seriously now. You reclaim your past as a reason to be more responsible, not less. Their weapon becomes your witness. None of this will feel natural at first if you secretly believe you deserve permanent punishment. That's why the real battle is inside. Ask yourself honestly, do I believe that I am required to suffer forever to prove I'm sorry? If the answer is yes, then anyone who wants power over you only has to speak in the language of guilt. They don't need logic. They only need to press the bruise. The Stoic alternative is not to declare yourself innocent. It's to declare the sentence finished. The sentence, in philosophical terms, is your willingness to learn, to grow, to take responsibility where you can, apologizing sincerely, repairing what can be repaired, living differently going forward. After that, continuing to whip yourself does not help the person you hurt. It just keeps you small enough for others to control. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, never fail. He said, when you fail, return. Return to yourself, to your principles, to the path of virtue, not to endless self-destruction disguised as moral seriousness. There is a hard truth here. Some people are invested in you never leaving that courtroom. If you grow, their favorite argument loses force. If you forgive yourself, their favorite chain no longer tightens. So they will test this new posture. The first time you respond with calm instead of collapse, they may intensify the attack. Wow, you're really full of yourself now. Look how arrogant you become. Before, at least you had some humility. From a Stoic angle, this is just another impression, another judgment you are not obligated to swallow. Humility does not mean accepting any label thrown at you. True humility is to see clearly both your flaws and your progress. You can answer, I'm not being arrogant. I'm just not willing to be defined only by the worst thing I've done. Then you leave silence. You don't launch a debate to convince them. You're not trying to win them over to your new view of yourself. You are practicing it with or without their approval. Sometimes, retaking control will mean changing how you speak to yourself before you speak to them. When you're alone and the memory comes back, instead of repeating, I'm disgusting, I ruined everything, I don't deserve anything good, you can start training a different line. I did real damage there, and I regret it. I can't change it, but I can refuse to repeat it. Cass, I'm allowed to become someone my old self wouldn't even recognize. Say it as many times as it takes until it stops sounding like a lie. You are not erasing what happened. You are placing it where it belongs, behind you as a teacher, not above you as a judge. In the next part, we'll bring it closer to the hardest scenarios, when the person using your past against you is someone you love or someone who genuinely suffered because of you. We'll see how Stoicism can help you balance two forces that seem impossible to hold together: accepting their pain as real without letting their pain dictate your worth and your entire future every time your history enters the room. It would be easier if the only people who used your past against you were obvious villains, strangers on the internet, bitter exes you barely recognize anymore, people who clearly enjoy seeing you squirm. With them, drawing a line feels almost natural. You block, you walk away, you shrug. But life rarely makes it that simple. Often, the person who turns your history into a weapon is someone you still love. Someone who has every reason to say, you hurt me, because you actually did. Someone who carries wounds that you helped create. That is where things get complicated, because now the attack is mixed with the truth you can't deny. They say, after everything you did to me, and some part of you thinks, yes, I'll do that. They say, you ruined my trust, and a part of you nods quietly, remembering the version of yourself who broke things you said you would protect. They say, you changed my life in the worst way, and you know this is not just manipulation. There is real pain there. How do you stand your ground without turning into a stone? How do you avoid being enslaved by guilt without acting like nothing happened? The first thing Stoicism asks from you is a difficult kind of honesty, to differentiate between pain and control. The fact that someone is in pain because of you does not automatically mean that everything they do with that pain is just. They are allowed to feel angry, sad, suspicious. They are allowed to have days when the wound reopens and the memory burns. They are allowed to say, I am not over it. That is human. But they are not automatically entitled to use your worst moment as a universal card. They can play forever in every discussion to win every argument and cancel every boundary you try to set. In other words, Stoicism does not deny their wound. It denies their right to turn your remorse into endless currency. You can acknowledge that you were the one who cut them and still refuse to let that give them full ownership of your future self. This is where most people get stuck. They think, if I resist this, I'm being cruel. If I ask for respect, I'm erasing their pain. So they accept any tone, any accusation, any humiliation, because deep down they feel they deserve it. They confuse taking responsibility with accepting abuse. A Stoic view of responsibility is heavier and cleaner. It says, if you broke something and you have the chance to repair, you repair. If you lied and can now tell the truth, you tell it. If you took trust away, you expect that it will not be restored easily. You don't demand fast healing. You don't dictate the other person's timeline. You don't say, "I already apologized, get over it." You accept that they may need time and space that is uncomfortable for you. You accept that some doors will never fully reopen. That's the weight of consequence. If they choose to stay in the relationship, yet keep you forever at the level of the one who did that, they are not trying to heal. They are trying to hold the upper hand. They may not even realize it. Pain can be tempting that way. It can whisper, now that they feel guilty, don't let them stand up too straight. Keep the leverage. Imagine a partner who brings up your worst mistake every time you try to talk about something that hurts you. You say, "I feel ignored," and they answer, "Ignored. Like I felt when you betrayed me." You say, "I don't like how you spoke to me," and they respond, "At least I'm not out there doing what you did." The message is clear. Your past disqualifies you from having needs, from feeling hurt, from asking for respect. Your punishment is permanent silence. A Stoic response here is not to shout, "You're manipulating me." Even if that's partly true, it is to calmly refuse the equation. Because I hurt you once, I must accept anything. You might say, with steady voice, "I know what I did to you, and I understand how deep that goes. I don't deny it. I also know that what we're talking about now is how we are treating each other today. My past doesn't erase my right to bring that up." You are not erasing their wound. You're refusing to let it erase your present humanity. This requires a huge inner shift. You stop approaching the relationship as if you are a criminal on parole. You stop behaving as if one wrong step, one honest disagreement, one boundary will send you back to the emotional prison you came from. Instead, you start relating as a human who has failed, yes, but who is also trying to live according to principles now. And if the other person cannot tolerate that, if they want the comfort of always being morally superior to you, then you are faced with another Stoic decision, not about guilt, but about self-respect. Sometimes, retaking control will mean accepting that they are not ready or not willing to relate to the version of you that is here now. They prefer the old version, not because they like your past behavior, but because it offered them something, an eternal excuse to never look at their own shadows. As long as you are the one who messed up, they never have to examine how they speak, how they neglect, how they wound. Your sin becomes their shield. Stoicism asks a blunt question. Are you willing to participate in that dynamic forever just to prove how sorry you are? This does not mean you storm out of their life shouting about philosophy. It means you quietly recognize patterns. You notice whether they ever allow the conversation to move forward or whether it always loops back to your worst day. You notice whether they ever see your current efforts, your consistency, your patience, or whether they keep talking to you as if you were still the person who hadn't yet learned anything. And then you ask yourself, without drama, is this still an environment where growth is possible, or is this just a place where I am endlessly punished? If it's the second, Stoicism gives you permission to choose distance without rewriting history. You don't need to say, "They're horrible, I did nothing wrong." You can say, "I did wrong. They were hurt. I tried to repair." But staying in a space where my past is used to crush any present movement is no longer compatible with the person I'm trying to become. That is a hard, adult conclusion. It doesn't come from ego, it comes from a refusal to keep living as a symbol of your worst moment instead of as a human being capable of change. For those who stay, for the relationships that survive the impact, retaking control will look like daily, quiet courage. The courage to say, when the past is thrown at you in the middle of a different topic, we can talk about that moment, but let's not use it to cancel what I'm saying now. The courage to admit, yes, I hurt you, and I am still worthy of being spoken to with respect. The courage to remain present when they cry or rage, without either defending yourself aggressively or dissolving into self-hatred. Stoic strength in this context is not cold detachment, it is warm stability. You remain open to hearing how your past still affects them, but you do not hand them full control of your self-image every time the subject comes up. You can say, "I'll listen. I won't run away from this. But I also won't accept that this is the only thing I am allowed to be forever." If they are truly interested in healing, they will eventually meet you in that space. If they are interested only in holding you by the throat of your own regret, they will resent your new posture. Either way, your responsibility remains the same, to live in such a way that, if someone judged you only by who you are now, your actions would stand. You cannot force anyone to see that, but you can ensure that their refusal to see it is not because you gave up on being better. In the next part, we'll bring everything together. We'll talk about specific, Stoic-inspired ways to reclaim your inner authority when your past is used as ammunition, from how you talk to yourself, to how you respond in the moment, to the quiet decision that no one, not even the harshest voice from your history, gets to own the person you are choosing to become today.